9:30, so I'll call the open board meeting of Tuesday, June 7th, 2022 to order. I'd like to give you, I think, cautionary regrets on behalf of Thorne. The last we conversed with him, he was having transportation difficulties out of Vancouver, so he may or may not be able to attend tonight. I squeal CM na sietya. I na squalawan kawana silam na. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the. So I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Carries. Moving to the minutes of May 3rd, 2022 open board meeting, asking for a motion to adopt the minutes. Moved by Trustee Dolan, seconded by Trustee Hutchins. All those in favor? Carries. Recognition and delegations. Could you please bring Jessica Lake into the meeting? Our delegation is around Humble Hooves, the Equine Assisted Learning EAL program. Hi, Jessica. I see.
Hi, I'm just catching up here. Hello.
Hello. Well, thank you for joining us. And
oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. Well, first I'd like to tell the board a little bit about the Humble Hooves program, because for many of us, we have very little knowledge of your program. So this is quite exciting for us to hear that you have this amazing program for our children. And the board would like to recognize Humble Hooves, your equine assisted learning program. We'd like to recognize and thank you, Jessica Lake, for your sponsorship of the program. And you also support it financially. So we're really very impressed that you've been able to do that, Jessica.
Oh, thank you. That's actually my main job is the funding. It's Tamara Merkins, who is the owner of Humble Hooves, who delivers the programming. And yes, that my organization is the Horsemanship for Life Project. And we provide funding across the country for equine assisted learning experiences at approved programs.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm glad that you've mentioned Tamara Merkin's name as well, because we want to thank her as well, support of our kids. For the board, just so you know, equine listed assisted learning with Humble Hooves is a non-riding learner-based educational experiences with horses as teachers. Each week, participants move through objectively driven exercises and obstacles in teams of 2 humans and 1 horse. Together, the learning builds as they move through the program each week. EAL facilitates the learning of life skills through positive reinforced interaction with horses. There is no right or wrong way of moving through the exercises, as participants learn through their experience while working as a team. The program environment has been specially developed to encourage self-confidence through validated hands-on experiences. The program is for grade 7 and some grade 6 students. It has benefited 144 students over this year. 14 schools have participated in the program. There have been 18 groups of 8 students, with each group participating in the program for 10 weeks. So, Jessica, we offer you a big thank you for providing the financial support to the program, and to Tamara Merkins for her work as facilitator at Humble Hooves. We are proud to acknowledge all that you do to support our students. And we'd like to recognize you not only through this presentation, but through a token of our thanks, which will be arranged to be sent to both of you. So thank you so much. And
well, thank you for your trust in us and your confidence in the results that this type of program can deliver. I'm very, very passionate about it. I think it has immense benefits for people, often surprising benefits for the people who are involved. And it also creates jobs for horses that might otherwise not have value in our society today. And also for our farm families that need our support and need our inclusion in our communities. So thank you for your role in all of that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And where it is operated out of your farm, the Heart Lake Farm?
So the programs that SD 79 have access are at Tamara's farm, Humble Hooves, which is just outside Cobble Hill. I'm based on Wasanich territory, just a little bit south of you. My farm is called Heart Lake Farm. And we deliver very similar programs there, mainly for adults, though, in partnership with social service agencies in the area, such as the Victoria Brain Injury Society, the Victoria Native Friendship Center, Bridges for Women program, the YMCA, organizations like that. And then I wear another hat as the founder and director of the Horsemanship for Life program, which is a project, which is purely a funding body. So I help to connect charitable organizations, whether they be social services or education organizations, with equine assisted learning programs that I have fully vetted for safety, quality of the program, ethical care of the horses, all of those sort of factors. And I'll match organizations that deliver group programming with farms that can provide the EAL experiences, and then we provide all or most of the funding to help make those programs accessible, because they often aren't really on people's radars. They're a little bit niche and a little bit out there. So I'm happy to support, and there's often transportation and clothing needed, that kind of thing. So those things that can otherwise be really hard to find funding for, we help out with that. Just because I'm absolutely passionate about how rich the benefits of these sorts of experiences are for just about everybody. And I have a little PDF that I can send over and have forwarded that has some really great images from a variety of programs, but many of them are from our SD 79 students at Tamara's Farm. And it talks just a little bit more about the programs. You get an idea from the photos of what it looks like, and then also talks about the funding streams that we have as well.
Well, thank you, and we'd love to
share that, and it can be forwarded on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustees, are there any comments or questions? No, I think you've just stunned us all with this one.
Well, I hope you get an opportunity to try out this really powerful work.
Yes, it would be really delightful to at least watch. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
And thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me. It's a real treat. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving to item 5, report of closed meeting. Mr. Sandquist.
Thank you. The board met in closed session just prior to this open session. All the business was concluded. The board discussed personnel updates, reviewed correspondence, reviewed contractual agreements, and facility issues.
Thank you. Moving to old business, the action list. Could you bring that up for us, please, Mr. Sandquist? So is there anything that staff want to talk about that's on our list? I notice a number of the items are on our agenda later. Anything from staff at this point? Superintendent?
Yes, I just want to comment on the out-of-school care action. So the board approved the expansion of out-of-school programs within our elementary schools, and I'm pleased to report that we have 4 schools who are interested: Eco Cobble Hill, George Bonner, Millbay Nature School, and Drinkwater Elementary. So they are looking forward to expanding the program, and they're working toward that endeavor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from trustees on the action list? Okay, moving to item 7, Chair of the Board. The first is 7.1.1 BCSDA AGM recognition. For those who were not in attendance, Gordon Lee, the Director of Education Services for BCSDA, traveled to Duncan last week to present a plaque to our board. And it's in our trustee's office. It's a lovely black plaque. And it's going to hopefully at one point be in our board office, but right now we don't have a place to put it. So you'll have to look at it in our office. And the intent was to thank us for hosting the BCAGM Indigenous Day of Learning. He shared with us that in the surveys, they received the most responses ever from trustees. The scores were 50% of excellent and 49% good. And it was the highest ever response to any of their offerings as part of professional development. Of course, he gave a special note of thanks to CMTN, our trustee Joe Thorne, with his special contribution in organizing the event and then going through the event. And we had 2 elders from Cowichan Valley, Tusilum, and Quackalitza, LB Charlie. And between the 3 of them, they were really magnificent. So trustees DeGroot, Croft, Thorne, and I were there to receive the plaque. And he said that School District 79, and particularly Trustee Thorne, would be involved with future Pro-D that around Indigenous learning at the Fall Academy and the next AGM. He also tremendously thanked our staff who attended and will also involve them in the future. Moving to 7.1.2, the Duncan Panago Parade. The Cowichan Leadership Group is going to participate this year and are hoping members of their boards and councils will join in. It's on Saturday, July the 9th at 2022. There's no theme this year for those who attended last year or in the past. And I think that was Trustee Kemmler and myself. We had to, and Trustee Croft, we had to dress for Christmas. But this year there is no theme, just the idea of wearing colorful clothes. And we meet at the community center at 9 a.m. and the parade starts at 10 a.m. Does anybody know right now if they're available to go this year? Trustee Croft. And anybody else? Okay, well, it'll be Trustees Croft and Spilsbury, perhaps. Okay, moving to item 7.1.3, which is Pride Month. I hope you have all seen our Pride flag flying off our school board office roof. It looks quite magnificent, actually, very attractive, and draws attention. It's such a colorful flag anyway. Many activities are happening at the schools to recognize the Pride Month. And our board, of course, is pleased to be able to support the message of diversity and inclusion represented by those activities and flags. Moving to item 7.1.4, long service recognition. The long-term service pins and letters have been mailed out to the schools and sites. Pins acknowledge staff contributions of 10 years, 25 years, 30, and 35 years. Thanks to those trustees who have joined the schools or sites to honor those employees who have contributed so much to our students, their families, and their colleagues. So thank you for being involved. 7.1.5 school district retirement reception is next Monday at 5 p.m. at the Ramada Inn. We have a fair number of retirees this year. At this point, looks like there are 63 retirees and 38 are planning to attend so far. So it should be a fairly big gathering, and hopefully we'll be able to honor those people who are retiring and thank them for all of their work. And I'm just wondering if Trustee DeGroot, if you have a comment at this point.
I'm one of them.
Okay.
I actually just would like to say that I have been a trustee for quite a few years, and I taught in this district for quite a few years before that. And one of the things that I really would like to say is to thank everybody for the last few years. It has been an amazing journey. I think we've done, as a group, as a board, as staff, as schools, an amazing job and moved forward in a very positive way. And so it's kind of sad. I actually was talking to superintendent the other day, and I'm seeing that brand new school, and I'm thinking I'd love to be a teacher in that building. So there's a lot of, I think that you guys have got a whole lot of stuff to look forward to. That's really great. And I'd like to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you for all your years of dedication and contribution. We really have appreciated working with you. Thank you, Barb. Okay, moving to 7.1.6, tour of the Cowichan Secondary School replacement site. A special tour for trustees has been organized for Tuesday, June the 28th, 2022 at 3:30. So don your hard hat and come on the tour. There'll be a brief safety training session, and then we should be able to walk the footprint of the new school and learn a lot about it on site, hopefully. Okay, any questions about that? No. Okay, moving to 7.1.7, the board performance review professional development. You'll remember that we completed our board performance review with a high performance rating and an interest in Pro-D related to increasing vulnerable student success. Gordon Lee made contact for us with Jennifer Charlesworth, the BC representative for children and youth, who is interested in facilitating our Pro-D. However, she's not available during our term. So I will leave it to the next board to follow up if the new board wishes to continue on with that professional development. Okay. All right, moving to 7.1.8, the Cowichan Valley Indigenous Day of Learning. Following a suggestion at the advisory committee meeting to host a similar session for Cowichan Valley as we did at the BCSTA AGM, we've been working on plans. To date, we have DPAC has accepted our invitation to be a partner in that presentation. Trustee Thorne is planning the program with elders. A tentative location is Somano's House on Monday, September the 26th. So mark your calendars. The event will begin with dinner provided at 5:30 p.m. And the protocols will be similar to the BCSTA AGM. So if you were there as part of the drumming or organizing or speaking or anything, be ready to do it again. And if you weren't there, that's no problem. We will have you involved in it as we were. So that would be great. So 7.1.9 is LEA celebration. And as you know, LEA agreements have now been signed with all First Nations in the Cowichan Valley with the school district. This is first time in the history of Cowichan Valley School District, and it seems like it requires a recognition with our partner First Nations. Accordingly, we would like to plan for September the 28th at 2022. Please mark your calendars and more information will be forthcoming. And 7.1.10, school district candidate orientation. As in the last election, the board will host an orientation for interested candidates on Monday, August the 29th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom. If any trustees are able to attend, that would be great. We normally have gone over some of the regular procedures and background of the school district with anyone interested. Okay, we're into 7.2, which has a number of board actions. The first is National Indigenous Peoples Day, coming up very soon on June 21st, 2022. And this is a recommended motion that we recognize that National Indigenous Peoples Day. So is there a mover for that motion? Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any conversation? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to 7.2.2, Annual Review of Quamachin School. You'll notice that there is a report in our package on how the review was conducted, led by our superintendent, but certainly with all of our schools, surrounding schools, and community involved. And I wonder, Superintendent, if you would just give us a very brief summary or synopsis, or take us through the report, however you'd like, so that we understand the environment before we attend to the motion.
I certainly can. Thank you very much. So in your package, you will see the report. And within that report gives a really good background of where we started. And we started with a circumstance that we recognized that when the health and wellness came into our particular community, there was a lot of community questions. And so through that process, we know that the board certainly heard the announcements from Island Health. We also know that within that announcement that there was a huge public response with regard to that particular announcement. So as we moved through that history, it became very apparent that we needed to really look at the safety of our children. And so through a process, and I think it was guided by the board, there was a board motion with regard to how do we ensure that our school and students are safe, and particularly around Quamachin. And so there was a board motion that was put forward in February 2021, and it was with regard to determining whether Quamachin School would be remaining an open campus. And so there were a number of conditions that the board put in place. And so the first one was district and school administration to continue with their connection to York Road agencies and their supervision supports. Also looking at how do we offer an opportunity for the board and district staff to have representation on the North Cowichan Safety Response Model Gap Analysis. And then, of course, looking at how do we create maybe more supervision that could support our learners as they actually traverse this particular area. And then what about education? And so we know that Quamachin School staff and students have really looked forward to providing a fulsome proactive student education at the school site to certainly support the children who maybe want to leave campus. And then, of course, number 5 is really around a contractual form for parents to sign if students would like to leave their particular school. And if I could ask Secretary of Treasury to move up the report, that would be ideal. Thank you very much. And then, of course, in relation to this particular report, an annual review of the status of the school to be conducted by the Board of Education. And so this report is really a little bit of that annual review. And you'll see that in this particular school year, in 21 to 22, there has been a number of things that have occurred. And so at Quamachin School, the staff really works closely by providing noon hour supervision as students leave campus and actually go to the particular areas that offer some lunchtime services. But we also know that there has been a number of partners who have come into play. And we know that RCMP, Blackbird Security, the health and wellness staff, they have also been there to support us and actually come together when things get a bit more challenging. And so we know that we've done some work there. Also with regard to student engagement, the school does an excellent job in devoting a number of conversations related to lunchtime expectations, if they plan on going there, what do they do if there's anything that presents a safety challenge, and who do they talk to? And they look at revisiting that on a regular basis. As well, you know, you can see that operations staff, they do assist with a number of things. And so there's a lot of work involved. And so I think we need to be very authentic about the work that happens to keep our kids safe. And it's around, we have operations staff that does some early morning garbage pickup. There's sharps, drug paraphernalia happens. We have power washing at Quamich Alexander, the school board office in the Cowichan secondary area. We have a senior staff member who works with the Cowichan Valley Wellness and Recovery Center, and they meet on a regular basis to actually address some of the challenges that do occur. And then they address those challenges. And so there's a huge team of partners who come together to address those challenges. So within that report, and if you could move that up a little bit more, Secretary Treasurer, that'd be ideal. You can see that there's a number of pieces here in detail with regard to what does happen. And so we do know that our partners do come to the table. There's so much work that happens around this particular area, and we're very, very appreciative of that work. And it involves everyone that we know. RCMP, bylaw officers come through, Blackbird Security. Some of our staff certainly attend to it as well. And so we participate in that partnership in a fulsome way. And I think that we recognize that there are some challenges in this particular area. There are unhoused people here on a regular basis. We also know that bylaw officers and RCMP do come in early hours to actually prepare for student arrival. So as we move through that report, if you would follow that up, that would be great. And so there's open communication with all of those partners that we have. Our Director of Operations would be part of the Cowichan Gap analysis. And then there's ongoing monitoring of the York Road corridor. So before I go to the conclusion, yes, there is a lot of work and effort and energy and partnership development that has gone into the safety of our learners who access this particular area. There are things that do come up on a regular basis that sometimes principals and some of the staff address. And there are some circumstances that are reported to principals of the schools. And we do also offer the fact that we'd like them to communicate to our health and safety manager with regard to those circumstances. But I'd have to say that our RCMP partners and bylaw and security efforts that everyone's contributing to that area certainly has made a difference. So in conclusion, under the board's direction, a robust student-centered approach has taken form. This community-focused response has led to greater partnerships within our community and increased safety for students, staff, and community members alike. So that was a bit of a rushed overview of that report, but overall, we certainly are attending to it in a robust fashion. And there certainly are some circumstances that do come up. They get addressed immediately, and we have great partnerships and responses that are quick and timely, and we certainly are working together with our partners across this community.
Thank you, and thank you and the rest of our staff for all their energy to make sure our kids are safe. It's very important, and we really appreciate the energy and effort that's being made in our district. Are there any questions or comments about the report, Trustee Croft?
Thank you so much. It is, you know, vast and detailed and careful and considered. So I just think we, you know, we're so appreciative of all this work that's being done. I can't find the specific paragraph, but there was something about a decrease in incidents. But I assume that that was a decrease in incidents probably reported by the RCMP rather than the schools, right? Because we haven't had a whole lot of incidents at all that I could that I know. So that's my first question. Is that correct? And second of all, I see there's lots of opportunities for the parents to check in and have conversations about this. Is the PAC on this? Has this ever come up at the PAC meetings? Or any news or concerns from them?
Superintendent?
I'm going to go back to your first question. I think that we recognize that there's an annual rhythm related to when maybe more issues come up and when issues go down. And so when those issues come up, and often it comes with warm weather, that we do see a rally of all the partners come through to help to address those concerns and bring it back to a decline. And so we know that there's a rhythm to a year. And so at this particular time, there seems to be more of a rhythm. The warm weather brings more people out. And part of what our understanding is that this is an area that they feel that there is some safety. And there's also maybe some exit points and also maybe some eyes and some supports in the community. And so I think that the decline and the rise of these things are definitely seasonal in nature, but we recognize that partners come to the table immediately to address those. With regard to things that do occur, there are things that do occur. We have some excellent leaders at the school who will certainly put out certainly communication to their parent body if there's been a report. They will seek advice from RCMP around some of those matters. We do know we had one very serious incident that occurred at Alexander that's still being investigated by RCMP. But I think that overall, with regard to PAC, I think it's a regular occurrence that this comes up, certainly around at Quamachin, around the proactive educational work that occurs around these matters. So that staff is very aware of the importance of that educational work, because I think that in terms of it being an open or a closed campus, it's highly relevant to that particular population.
Thank you so much. Oh, and if I could just say the serious incident was after school hours, right? So yeah, just wanted to confirm that.
That's
So,
correct.
Is there a mover of the motion to receive the report?
I have a question.
Trustee Doman? Okay, Trustee Doman?
I was wondering if the superintendent can brief us on the safety notice that was sent out by the high school last Thursday.
Thank you, Superintendent. I know she can because she's already given me information on it. So, Superintendent.
I certainly can. I think that this would be a typical response of a principal who would get a report from a student with regard to a circumstance that may have occurred. And so I did certainly check in with the principal of the school around his notification to parents last week. It was always, again, sent out in abundance of caution. There was an incident where there was some physical contact. He didn't believe that it was related to an unhoused person. And in conversation with RCMP, they did not feel that it required a public notification and that wasn't necessary at the time. So I think that circumstance would be maybe a unique one, but it wouldn't be unique to maybe other schools who would have similar circumstances that do come into play, whether it be at another high school in another area. Those are the types of things that we just make sure that if there is a student report, certainly in a secondary level, or even in elementary, that parents are notified so that if there are other incidences that may have occurred, then everyone's aware of that and it can be reported.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, a motion to adopt the report. Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any conversation on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Moving to 7.2.3, which is the creation of a Board of Education Standing Committee, All Nations Education Committee. And you will recall that on our action list, you approved Trustee Thorne and I to meet with the nations to talk about their reaction to developing a committee of First Nations chief and council members with trustees to talk about the direction of education in the future for Indigenous students to increase their success and to increase the relationships between the First Nations and the Board of Education. We were received very graciously by all of the nations that we met with. They were very welcoming, very talkative about working together, and all seemed positive on moving in that direction. So I bring to you a motion to create that standing committee for all nations. And if we do that, we could have our first inaugural meeting at the same time as we celebrate with all the nations the signing of our LEAs in September. Trustee Croft.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Croft. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Trustee Doman. Trustee Hutchins. Oh, you put on your mic, Trustee Hutchins. It's okay.
We're approving this motion, but we don't have the terms of reference. So the terms of reference will be set up by the initial meeting of the committee?
That's, I think, what we need to do. If we're going to walk together, then we should be designing together.
Thank you.
Are there other questions or debate on the motion? All those in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So the meeting of our first inaugural meeting of the standing committee would be September 28th, 2022. And we'll get out more details to you. Okay, moving to 7.2.4, you know that we've had a board ad hoc COVID-19 transition committee that has worked with our staff to design the health and safety protocols. There is a report that is attached, and I'm not sure if one of our staff wants to go through it briefly, or I know that our Secretary Treasurer is really very connected to this committee and report because of all of the extra things that we have done around safety, including ventilation in our schools, to ensure the most we can do in our facilities. Please, I'm just going to go
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, it's hard to believe this is the third school year that's been affected by the pandemic. And at the start of the pandemic, the board put in place the ad hoc COVID transition committee. And we thought, as we're hopefully nearing the end, that it would be a great idea to do a summary up for that committee group. And that's been forwarded here for the board to also have a look at. So it all started with loaning a bus driver and a van to the Cowichan Green community to do community food pickup and delivery. Right at the very beginning, the board was involved in supporting the community and supporting families. And that was one of the mandates that were originally given to boards, was to support food programs. Then approximately 1,500 iPads were purchased and inventoried and distributed out to students for remote learning in those early days. Many resources were created to support families as students learn from home. There was enhanced partnerships with Nourish Cowichan and funding from the board. The board then assigned a bus driver and a bus to Nourish Cowichan to help with the delivery of food. Education assistants were reassigned who also worked on those food programs. And then the board opened up the buildings again, and those same education assistants were brought back in support of essential service workers to provide care for their children. And moving on with health and safety, the board increased custodial time and hired additional staff, invested in those electrostatic sprayers to ensure that everything was sanitized, hired additional sprayer positions. We hired our school bus drivers during the day to do high-touch surface cleaning, such as doorknobs and classroom handles. Many foot pumps, hand wash stations, and hand sanitizer stations were purchased and installed at schools. Paulson Elementary received long awaited updates to ensure that sinks were installed where possible in their classrooms. There was a major ventilation upgrade at Alex Aiken that was identified to address air quality. All the portables received ventilation upgrades, and where possible, all the filtration was updated to MER 13. Later on, just this year, those portable HEPA filter units were purchased for any space that didn't have mechanical ventilation. I would want to add up how many masks were purchased, but in the tens of thousands of masks were purchased and distributed to staff and to students throughout the pandemic. Plexiglass barriers were installed, were needed, and you still see many of those around the school district. And then when the ministry provided testing supplies for students and staff, and didn't provide enough, the board then invested and ensured immediately that every staff member, including our casuals, were recipients of that testing, those rapid COVID tests. On continuity of learning, originally we did a lot of online learning. We had to respond very quickly with technology resources. The board also created numerous outdoor learning spaces, which will be a legacy to those fortunate schools that have those, as those spaces will be utilized for years to come. Lots of choice early on with the distributed learning virtual classroom, the Mill Bay Blended Clan, Inquisitive Design and Technology program, which was out at Drinkwater, blended program at the Grove, and Swallowtail blended programs. Lots of options for families to learn in alternative ways. Evidence-based decision-making. This committee oversaw all aspects of response, met regularly with Dr. Shannon Waters, the Cowichan Valley's medical health officer. There was central tracking and support for all COVID exposures. So you remember in the early years, we had to do a lot of tracing and have classes isolate in their entirety at some certain cases, or students and staff isolate. And then we had regular communication with staff and partners agencies. So in total, the board invested in excess of $5 million in support of those measures, and worked hard to ensure that schools and workplaces were safe. And over those 3 years, the board had oversight over all those decisions in regards to those COVID responses. So every dollar that was spent was brought forward to the board for discussion and decision. And many of those decisions will leave a legacy. Improved air quality certainly is one. Those outdoor classrooms are certainly another.
Thank you, Mr. Sandquist. I was just appreciating how much work we had done. That's quite a tremendous record. Thank you. And so I'd ask for a motion to receive the minutes of the last COVID-19 Transition Committee meeting. Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Kemlin. All those in favor? Motion carries. And I hope you sort of understood through that report that the work is completed. So the ad hoc committee on COVID-19 transition is now to be dissolved. And if the new board wishes to put a committee in place because the pandemic heightens again, then it can be done when necessary. Trustee Croft?
I just wanted to say a big thank you. It was nice of Jason to continually credit the board, but I think that there are hundreds of staff involved at all levels. And having been around the schools during food distribution, there were many hands that prepared the food, packaged the food, make sure the food went to the right folks, and literally delivered it. Well, in a distance kind of way into the hands of the people who needed all that support and the people who, you know, delivered homework to the doorstep and kept in touch, and all of those steps that were taken to maintain our community and our education. So I think an enormous thank you to all of those on the ground efforts and care and love that everyone has extended. So thank you. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Trustee Croft. Okay, moving on to 7.2.5 is the other board ad hoc committee that we created, and that was on anti-racism. And at this point, the committee's work that was designed and the meetings over the year have now concluded. Kevin Lamoureux was our facilitator, and he took us through a process, designing our value set and our understanding of the various aspects of racism. And we have dissolved really as a committee, although there is a subcommittee that was created that will continue, and that subcommittee will be developing a policy on anti-racism for the district. But the original committee that the board struck has concluded its work. I don't know if the superintendent would like to take us through that report on the anti-racism committee, or that you have any comments around that committee's work.
Yes, I certainly will. I think that it certainly was, I think, some impressive work around building bridges and building understanding around and with many of our community partners. And so Trustee Spilsbury and Trustee Thorne, I know that you facilitated the meetings with Kevin Lamoureux, who is quite a renowned, I would say, builder of those bridges, who is an expert around truth and reconciliation and has done a lot of work around that area. And it was approached in a very unique way, a way that wasn't, it was more from the heart rather than from the head. And I know that certainly with the work that the subcommittee will do around the policy, that those understandings and the expectations from the work that we did around that ad hoc committee will, I believe, certainly be part of that policy work. So we're looking forward to gathering 6 to 8 people who can work on that draft policy to present to the board in the future.
Thank you. So is there someone who would like to move the receipt of the minutes of the last ad hoc committee? Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Croft. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 8, Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you very much. I'd like to provide the board with the understanding that we have a new health and wellness manager. Cheryl Fotis has returned to her role as a homestay coordinator with international student programming. And we have now invited Gina Kieber back to be our health and wellness manager. She started last week on May the 25th. I'd like to also discuss the fact that she certainly was the initiator of this work. So she knows what she's getting herself into, and so we look forward to her continuing with that work. Next item is 8.2.1, and it's with regard to the school calendar. Now that is attached, and the board has actually approved this calendar, but this is the time where we review the fact that we've engaged with our Cowichan Valley Teachers Association. And so now it has been determined that October the 21st, February the 17th, and Friday, May the 5th will be our non-instructional days with regard to professional learning and development. And so this will now be distributed to all of our schools around those particular days. And so we've gone through that consultative process, And they're certainly in agreement with those dates. And I will now, if there aren't any questions, move to 8.2.2, which is the superintendent's report. We do have some photos, just not quite yet. So I know that the Secretary Treasurer is on the ready to help me to present those photos when we get there. And I'll give you the high alert, Secretary Treasurer, when we are there. So firstly, I just want to acknowledge a few things here. That we would like to congratulate Louise Thompson for being newly elected as president of CVTU, and of course Mike Greenslade, who has been re-elected as the president of the LCTA. So congratulations to both of them. I'd also like to congratulate Erica Roberts, and she has been elected vice president, who will be working with Louise Thompson with CV2U. So congratulations to both of them, and they will begin their role next school year. Next, I'd like to recognize that we have some early learning leaders here, Brenda Lee and the Strong Start BC educators and kindergarten teachers. So they've done some heavy lifting for the transitional work that's occurred across the district. And so first of all, we have Ready, Set, Learn, which are community-based events. And so these events were held at 3 outdoor settings in the Cowichan Valley, the Sportsplex, Crofton Boardwalk, and the Trans-Canada Trail. They were facilitated by our Strong Start BC educators and supported by Learning Links, Parkside Society Academy, Island Health, Clement Center, and Chemainus Crofton Community Schools Association. The format for these events was a story walk, an outdoor reading experience where a book is deconstructed and placed along a walking path, with physical literacy prompts to move the children from page to page. Attendance was as follows: 138 children and 154 adults. So congratulations to all of them. And then of course we have our Ready, Set, Go events, and this occurs with each of our elementary schools, and they also host a story walk for the children who will be starting kindergarten in September. The book this year was Big Wide Mouthed Frog. So you can imagine how exciting that was for those new kindergartners coming. And so it was a variety of play-based learning activities, supported movement between stations. And they were facilitated by all of our kindergarten teachers, and of course led through that process with Brenda Lee, our early learning coordinator. Swag bags included all those tools that we remember: scissors, crayons, glue sticks, Play-Doh mat, dice, decks of cards, math game booklets, welcome to kindergarten brochures, kindergarten immunization information, and a variety of child development information, including support for play, because we know we play in kindergarten, fine motor skills, and organ language development. So families expressed gratitude for being welcomed into the schools, and a portion of the event to see a kindergarten classroom environment. So they were welcomed in and had that tour. So attendance reports have not been confirmed at each of the school sites, but I'm sure it was well attended. Moving on, so that was kindergarten. So let's move to grade 12s now. And that is with regard to our district scholarship updates. And so there were a total of 83 scholarships for $1,250 each that were allotted to Cowichan Valley School District, for a total of $103,750. And the breakdown of the awards looked like this. Chemainus Secondary received 9, Cowichan Secondary received 31, Francis Kelsey 24, Lake Cowichan Secondary 7, and CVault 12. Coming out of the pandemic, each school coordinated their own district scholarship day, extending an invite to all of you. And we did have a couple of trustees who were in attendance around that judging. So we thank Trustee Kemmler and Trustee Croft for participating in that judging. Schools were given the month of May to complete the judging, and all have been completed now, and the names have been collected and sent off to the Ministry of Education and Childcare. So that's our grade 12 events that are happening. And then moving on to, here's where the photo show begins. And this is Careers Department update. So we had the Gravity Car Skills Regionals. And so you'll see on the top photo there that on May 18th, the Cowichan Valley School District Careers Department held the Gravity Car Skills Regionals competition at the Vancouver Island Motorsport Circuit. There were over 100 competitors that took part in the gravity car competition. The fastest car and the best designed cars both won a lap around the circuit with a professional driver. Again, thank you to 2 trustees who were judges. And so at this point in time, the gravity car winners were in the photo, on the top photo, Zoe Hilliard from Ecole Cobble Hill, first place. Josh Spooner from Ecole Mount Provost, second place. And Lucy Healthy from Chemainus Elementary in third place. So we congratulate all of those students, and you can see that we have our Director of Instruction and of course our Ryan Goff, who is our careers coordinator, in the background in the photo. So congratulations to all of those students. Then moving on, we have, again, this is around the career department, Sumo Bots and Gearbots Skills Regionals. And this was held at the same time as the gravity car event at the Motorsports Circuit. Over 50 competitors took part in the competitions. The Sumo Bot competition involves pushing out an opponent robot out of a mini sumo ring with electronic controls. And the Gearbot competition is a coding competition where students write code that controls a robot through various challenges. Both of those seem very challenging. The Sumo Bot winners were Quentin Best, Lennox Zhu, Graham Shepard, and Luke Dorian, and that's in the left-hand photo. And the Gearbot winners were Cash Henley, Lincoln Kowski, and Will Baker. So exciting times for those young learners in our elementary schools around the skills competitions. Moving on to our district student advisory leadership group, and we know some of these young learners, and they are now in our high school setting, and here we go. They went to Cape and Ray on Thetis Island to enjoy a leadership retreat. This has been postponed on a couple of years, and so they were very excited to attend on May the 23rd and 24th, and look at the weather that they had. On the Monday afternoon, students experienced kayaking, boating, swimming, and beach volleyball, followed by dinner, a leadership challenge activity, and s'mores and guitar around the fire. On the Tuesday, the day started with a screamer, and that's overcoming your fear challenge, climbing a 40-foot pole of uneven hand and foot holds. I think that's that middle small photo. Standing on the top of the pole on an 8-inch diameter surface and then leaping out to catch a trapeze bar. All, of course, while they're safely tethered to ground, of course. All students were able to at least climb to the top of the pole, maybe not stand on the 8-inch diameter. And so the last activity was a team initiative challenge, of course, that tested their ability to work as a team to solve problems. All the students had a fantastic time, lots of good learning and bonding as a group, and they are definitely all primed and ready to head into next year's District Student Advisory Committee. And so that's the students that we work with. And I really want to thank our Director of Instruction, Larry Matten, who led that endeavor. I'm thinking he might have had more fun than the kids. And also the principals who support these learners. And on this particular event, we had Lori Herniak go out, Jamie Doyle, as well as Kevin Vanderlinden. And I also think our Director of Communications snuck in to actually supervise so that he could be part of the singing and the guitar playing that probably occurred in the evening. So a great event at the year end. Next one would be our International Student Program year-end event on June the 2nd. I actually got to attend this event with our Director of Instruction and our Secretary Treasurer. And this celebration was held at Camp Pringle at Shawnigan Lake this year. There were over 150 students in attendance. There were a number of activities that they got to be a part of. And I think there was archery, there was a tightrope event, there was building forts, there was kayaking. I think many of them were wet. They had volleyball. And so again, it was another warm day and it happened to land on the right day. And while we were there, and as the district principal Keppel was announcing the winners, that place was in a roar in terms of celebrating the grade 12s who had been here in our school district, and was met with some great applause and some excitement. And so it certainly was a camp full of excitement and year end for all of those learners. So very exciting. Our next photo, this is the rookie rugby update. So after a 2-year hiatus, rookie rugby returned to Cowichan Valley schools. There were 13 teams from 11 schools in the Cowichan Valley, including public and private schools, competing at the Rookie Rugby Jamboree on Thursday, May 19th. Athletes from grades 5, 6, and 7 competed in over 40 matches at Cowichan Rugby Football Club fields on Herd Road. There was a huge turnout of parents, siblings, and supporters in this after-school event. Volunteer referees from McDowell Rugby helped everyone learn more about the great game of rugby. Special thanks to Robin McDowell of McDowell Rugby Academy and Sherry Spence, president of the CRFC Juniors program, for helping make this whole jamboree happen, and to all the coaches who supported their young athletes. Next, on May 26th, there was a Witness Mountain exhibition by Smuckwa clan of the Quishintal Mill Bay Nature School. So I think there's another picture. If you want to move that along, Secretary Treasurer, that would be ideal. And this picture is the Witness Mountain exhibition. It was a curated presentation of the Smuckwa clan's year-long exploration of heart, mind, spirit, and body, climbing to the top of 6 mountains of the warm land in Cowichan Valley, the traditional territory of the Hul'qumi'num speaking people, and looking around. Carrie Newman, the carver and curator of the Witness Blanket, the Smuckwa clan's inspiration, attended the exhibition and was gifted a handmade drum by Simon Gleason, a Smuckwa student, and handmade pottery by the Simmons family. Carrie presented the children with a Witness Blanket coin, as well as words of affirmation and support for their work in the school. Every student was represented at the event, and the entire exhibition, from invitations to refreshments to speeches to the mountains themselves, were student-centered and student-led. So you'll see in the photos that each one of those mountains, they brought back artifacts, and they created these mountains full of artifacts, and to share their experiences and what they felt and what it looked like and what they found when they were there. Next photo would be Ecole Mount Provost students. They joined forces with staff in the municipality of North Cowichan to hunt out and eradicate invasive plant species in Heron's Wood Park. For the students, this was a continuation of their exploration about climate change and the environment. So kudos to them. Congratulations to them for doing that work at that particular park. And that's the end of our photo show, but certainly not the end of my report. I know that was the exciting part, but I do want to talk about some upcoming events, and I think trustees have been invited to them. Coheman Elementary, they have been very busy. First of all, they have been working on a mural that's being painted on at Coheman Elementary. And so they've been working with an artist to actually create that new mural. So please, at any time you'd like to go by and meet the artist and what's happening there, certainly please do so. Coheman and Alexander Elementary Schools, they're learning the bone game at Salmona House. And on June 10th in the morning, students from Coheman and Alexander, they will be going there to continue learning that bone game and probably having certainly some competition. There's also the fact that they are doing an unveiling of Every Child Matters banners. So Coheman has partnered up with Queen Margaret School, and they will be gathering together to unveil that Every Child Matters banners that are created by them at that particular school site. And that's happening on June the 16th at 10:30, which is a Thursday. And then, of course, the final act that's happening at Coheman Elementary is that they are having an official opening and naming of the Coheman Garden, which is scheduled for June 17th at 9 a.m. So please watch for your invitations. So a lot of things happening at Coheman this year. And then Crofton Elementary. Students and staff at Crofton Elementary are inviting the public to witness and celebrate their learning from a close study of the Salish Weave collection. For the last few weeks, all 4 collections from the Salish Weave box sets have been gracing the halls of Crofton Elementary. Students have created their own artwork inspired by Salish Weave box set, and on June 10th, which is this next Friday this Friday from 12:30 to 2. You certainly have been invited to see their showcase and be part of their inspiration around their art projects. And then I just want to give an update around Mill Bay Nature School. They had a project that I shared with the board, and it was with regard to that they were a recipient of the Tell a Story Hive grant. And it was around 10,000 beads, one strand connecting time and people. The project has changed its title name to 10,000 Gifts, Witnessing Christian Tell. So I just wanted to let the board know about that change in their project. And then I just want some announcements at this time. Terry Fox Run. This year, we received a letter from the Terry Fox Foundation announcing that our family of schools raised $14,598.57 for cancer research this past school year. So that's always very exciting. Also, the school district has received a grant from Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. And on May 30th, the Social Science and Humanities Research Council of Canada awarded a $24,900 partnership engagement grant to the research project entitled Early Literacy Learning During the Pandemic. And this is being conducted by our school psychologist, Lila Boulay, and her research partner is Gina Harrison. 5 elementary schools are involved: Ecole Cobble Hill, Ecole Mont Prevost, Crofton Elementary, Chemainus Elementary, and Drinkwater Elementary. So an excellent partnership with the Research Council of Canada. And then lastly, I do want to share with you a little bit of some of the activities that have been going on with regard to maybe my activities. I know that I spoke with CUPE at CUPE Professional Development Day on May the 6th, and certainly welcomed our CUPE colleagues to a day of learning. We also have had our First Nations education outcomes team visiting from the ministry. And so on May the 11th, I attended the Indigenous Outcomes team meeting, and we had representation from the Ministry of Education as well as the First Nations Education Steering Committee. And it was a great conversation around our learners and their achievement. I also had the great fortune of taking a bit of a tour to go to visit the Daje studio, where we have our academy that's coming up next year. Myself and the Secretary Treasurer went over there to do a bit of a review, and had the opportunity of seeing how they have inspired their dancers at the old Duncan Primary with a newly developed looking building. You can see that they are very much great decorators and can provide an aesthetically pleasing environment for their dancers. And then, of course, I participated along with some of you on the call today in the District Equity Scan team meeting on May the 25th. And that's where we looked at our equity scan and some of our questions that we were asking our parents, our students, and our staff. And then I was also lucky to attend the superintendent's meeting that was held in Vancouver on May the 13th. And then just to move on, I was able to also get out to some schools here, and it was just a pleasure to go and visit some of the schools out like Bench, George Bonner, Francis Kelsey, Discovery, Ecole Cobble Hill, and Mill Bay Nature School. And there are a number of upcoming events, and I think that we will see some of you here online, and we'll be reviewing some of those year-end events here at the end of this agenda. And then lastly, but certainly not least on this update, would be that we've approved a master's research project by Ricky Carr. He's a teacher at Quamachin School. He's been granted approval to research that's entitled Exploring How the Utilization of Place-Based Education Practices Can Enrich the School Community and our students' achievement. So that's his focus of study. And that is my report. And if there's any questions before I move on to board action, I'm happy to answer them.
Trustees have any questions? Well, I just have a comment. It's very thrilling to hear all of the good work that's happening out in our schools for kids. It's quite an amazing record. thank you so much for taking the time to share with us.
Thank you. Yes, it's so many things are happening, so many. And then moving on to board action. And so in your package, 8.3.1, there is a package that's describing a French immersion student exchange program with Académie de Lyon. So there's a briefing note, and it is to receive approval in principle from the board for a grade 11 French immersion student exchange. So this request for final approval will be brought to the board next school year. So this is just approval in principle. So in 2020, our associate superintendent and a previous district principal of ISP met with French representatives from Lyon Mobility Path Program while in Europe on ISP business. And they believe the program would offer valuable learning experiences and engagement for our students. The Mobility Path Program is a 4-week reciprocal educational exchange where similarly aged participating students from Lyon, France, would be paired with grade 11 French immersion students from our district. So in October 2022, students from Lyon would come to our district for 4 weeks to stay with their grade 11 exchange host families and attend school with their student partners. In March 2023, our grade 11 students would travel to France to stay with their exchange host families and attend high school in Lyon for 4 weeks. If approved, grade 11 students choosing to participate in the exchange will continue with normal instruction at Cowichan Secondary. Their exchange would occur in spring of 2023, and the receiving school will support their learning when they are in Lyon. The dates suggested for the exchange fall during instructional breaks, meaning each will only miss about 2 weeks of in-person instructional time at their respective schools during their 4-week exchange. Lyon students would arrive in October and depart on November the 5th, and our students would arrive in Lyon March 11th and depart on April the 8th of 2023. The only cost to our participants, other than spending money, is their return airfare. And in 2019, when this was researched, that was about $1,800. And of course, insurance coverage would also be required. But because this is a reciprocal student exchange, there are no additional fees to participate. And it has been determined that there is quite a bit of interest by the current grade 10 French immersion families in participating in this exchange program, in upwards of actually 20 students and families. And given this is an enriching educational opportunity, and there's interest from both Cowichan Valley and Lyon for this exchange, there is a recommendation for the board to consider. I think that there's one thing to note for the board, that our district principal of French programming would actually travel with the students when they actually go to Lyon, France.
Thank you. So do we have any questions from trustees to begin with? Is there a mover of the motion to grant approval in principle? Moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee Hutchins. Any debate on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Superintendent. Moving to Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. For information, we have the the board office summer hours, and I'll just quickly share those. As per usual practice, the school board closes to the public. Of course, somebody knocks on the door. we do respond, but it is intended to be closed to allow staff to take vacation. And then we have our central receiving summer hours with an altered schedule, and operations department with an altered schedule. So this is for information, just following past practice. Moving on to action. Unfortunately, when we passed the bylaw last month, we weren't familiar with a new legislative requirement, which is number F. Our letter F, that the public notice posting place is the notice board in the front lobby of the school board office. So we do need to declare in the bylaw where we will put public notices in regards to the bylaw, and that is a new requirement. So we are asking to pass this new bylaw, which rescinds the old one, and that is the only change to meet a new legislative requirement that we missed when we brought this to the board last month.
Thank you. So could I have a mover for first reading of the trustee election bylaw? Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to second reading of the motion. Is there a mover for a second reading? Moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to consider 3 readings at this meeting. Is there a mover for that motion? Moved by trustee Cross, seconded by trustee Doman. All those in favor? Motion carries. And moving to the third and final reading of the motion. Is there a mover for that motion? Moved by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving back to Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. The next item of business is a recommended adoption of Policy 24, Financial Planning and Reporting, otherwise known as FPAR. It's a new ministerial requirement that boards adopt policy on how they will conduct their reporting and financial planning. So it's around consultation. This policy went through the audit committee and then arrived at the board education and business committee meeting, where it was recommended to the board for approval. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. So it is a policy that is driven by a provincial requirement that you see here. And it requires that boards have an annual reporting framework to report out on results and have a consultation process for how they will consult with all partners on how funding is aligned for achievement and resources. So we do have the draft here that has gone through those 2 committees to date, and it's recommended for adoption.
So do I have a mover of the motion that we adopt that policy? Moved by trustee Hutchins, seconded by trustee Thorne. Any conversation on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Back to Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. The next item is a recommendation to make an amendment to the annual facilities grant plan, which was adopted by the board previously. This is in relation to a $200,000 item that was put aside in the annual facilities grant for portable moves and is now required for infrastructure that will ensure that we have sufficient hydro capacity to charge the electric school buses and future electric school buses and fleet as we move forward. So currently, the cost of building in the BC Hydro energy supports to our back bus compound is approximately $250,000. We had originally allocated $50,000, and that now needs to be amended to meet $250,000. So there's a recommendation here that we reallocate AFG funding to support the electric bus fleet infrastructure.
Thank you. Is there a mover for the motion? Moved by trustee Hutchins, seconded by trustee Thorne. Any comments on the motion? Trustee Croft.
Just 2 things. One, on the wording, this is of course just for this fiscal, right? It's not annual, ongoing. And secondarily, is there something that's going to be undone because that we are reallocating this money over to the fleet?
Secretary Treasurer.
We don't believe we're going to require the $200,000 for portable moves. And so that's why we felt that this infrastructure investment was a more appropriate use for those funds.
Thank you. Any further debate on the motion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Moving to item 10, committees and outside organizations. The first is the highlights of the May 12th, 2022 DSAC meeting. Trustee Thorne, I know you were in attendance. Would you like to move the motion?
I'd like to move the motion that minutes of the DSAC meeting be presented or accepted. Sorry, I'm a little bit, I'm traveled out.
Okay, thank you. And I think the word you were looking for is receives the highlights. So Moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to 10.2, highlights of the May 17th, 2022 Advisory Committee meeting. Trustee Kemmler.
I would like to move that the board receive the minutes from the May 17th BEBC Advisory Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Kemmler. Is there a seconder? Seconder, trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to 10.3, minutes of the April 14th, 2022 special BEBC meeting chaired by trustee Kemmler.
I'd like to move that the board receive the minutes from the April 14th special BEBC meeting and adopt them. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Kemmler, seconded by trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 10.4, minutes of the April 26, 2022 BEBC meeting. Trustee Hutchins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that the Board of Education of School District Number 79 receive the minutes of the April 26 BEBC meeting.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Hutchins, seconded by trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries. And 10.5, minutes of the April 28th, 2022 special BEBC meeting. Trustee Hutchins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, that the Board of Education of School District Number 79 receive the minutes of April 28th, 2022 special BEBC meeting. So moved.
Moved by trustee Hutchins, seconded by trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries. 10.6, minutes of the May 19th, 2022 DPAC meeting. I attended with trustee Thorne. So trustee Thorne, would you like to move those minutes?
I'd like to move that we receive the motions by the DPAC meeting we had.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee Pillsbury. All those in favor? Motion carries. And same with the AGM of DPAC that we were in attendance. Trustee Thorne, would you like to move the receipt of those minutes?
Yes, I'd like to move that minutes of the meeting be received by School District 79.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to minutes of the April 1st, 2022 Climate Change Committee. Trustee Croft? Oh, put your mic on, trustee Croft.
Sorry. I'd like to move that the board receive the minutes of the inaugural Climate Change Committee meeting from April 1st.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries. And we're moving to upcoming meetings and events. Could you put up the schedule, please, Secretary Treasurer? Any questions or comments from trustees or staff? Okay, so moving to the graduation and district year-end events. Like we have a speaker on behalf of the board to each of the secondary graduation events. So thank you all. Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, moving through correspondence and new business to question period. And Mr. Sandquist, can you let me know if we don't have questions?
Yeah, at this point we don't, but we'll just monitor question and answer for maybe 15 seconds and see if anybody's typing. Right now it doesn't appear, so. There is a comment thanking trustee DeGroot for her years of dedication and passion. Good luck and have fun in your future endeavors. But outside of that, there's no questions.
Okay, lovely comment, whoever made it. Thank you. Okay, moving to a motion to adjourn. Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Kemmler. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries.